Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Long Way Forward podcast. Thanks for joining me. The topic of today's session is standards. Now, I touched on this briefly a couple of episodes ago, but there's one particular point I really want to dive into because it's super important. So for episode 19, we're really going to hone in on what you walk past. The concept of what you walk past is what you accept. Now, a bit about the Long Way Forward. This is not a podcast about fixing people. This is a podcast about helping you find ways to be more effective, more successful, happier, and have a better life. In episode 19, we're going to talk about something that shapes everything around you, usually without you even realizing it. Standards. Now, when people hear the word standards, we often think rules, expectation, pressure, maybe something rigid, but I'm going to simplify it. Standards are simply what you accept and what you don't. Forget all the written down things that you see, rules, processes, systems. Our personal standards, our professional standards are simply, in this concept, what we accept and what we don't. That's it. And whether you realize it or not, every single day you're setting a standard or you're accepting a standard through your behaviors, through your decisions. You accept standards through what you tolerate, and you set them at the same time through what you tolerate, what you allow, and just as importantly, what you ignore. Sounds pretty deep, doesn't it? But it's pretty simple. Let's start with this concept. What you walk past becomes what you accept. Just let that sit for a moment. What you walk past becomes what you accept. Remember this. It's really simple and it's really powerful. If you see something that's not quite right, it might be a behavior, it might be a shortcut, it might be something small that doesn't align with what you believe. It might be massive, really simply, obviously wrong. And you notice it, but you say nothing. I think many of us are guilty of that at some point in our life. You move on. You think, oh, it's not worth addressing, or it's only small, it's not that important. And in that moment, something happens, something very subtle. The behavior that you've ignored, the behavior that you've walked past becomes normal. Not because it was right, but because it was allowed, but because it was accepted. Now, I've seen this play out many, many times in workplaces, in teams, even in personal environments. It never starts big. It always starts small. Sometimes people test you with these things, with these little items, just to see what they can get away with. Have you heard that saying? I bet you have. They're just seeing what they can get away with. It never starts big. It always starts small. One shortcut, one misstandard, one raised voice, one thing that gets overlooked, and then it happens again and again and again. And before long, what used to stand out becomes normal. That's how standards drift, not suddenly, quietly, gradually. You ever wonder how an avalanche started? It started with one rock falling in the mountains, hitting another rock, and over time they all went. Big example, I know. Good metaphor. Well, it's true. And it doesn't just apply at work, by the way. This applies everywhere. At home, in relationships, in your own habits, the way people interact around you. If you consistently allow something, it becomes your standard too. Ever hear the saying, lowering yourself? It refers to lowering your standards. If you consistently let yourself off the hook too, that becomes your standard. I won't stop at one beer. I'll have 4 or 5. Well, if that's your standard, you can see how it evolves. I will stop at 1. I will, and you do, and that's your standard. But if you don't, if you consistently let yourself off the hook, that's your standard. If you consistently follow through, that's your standard. You're always setting one, whether you realize it or not, whether you shine your shoes, clean the kitchen bench, vacuum your car. I have a problem with that one too, vacuuming the car. But at least I know it. Here's something important to understand. Standards are not set by what you say. They are set by what you consistently do. You can talk about values all day long. You can say effort matters. You can say integrity matters. You can say respect matters. Blah, 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 blah. But if your actions don't match that, if you don't walk the talk, the real standard here is your behavior. If you expect effort from your team, but you accept the bare minimum, well, guess what? You've just accepted a low standard. That becomes the standard. If you value respect, either towards you or around you, but you allow disrespect, that becomes the standard. If you talk about accountability, but avoid it like the plague when it's uncomfortable, guess what? That's the standard. And people notice this. Even if they don't say it, they feel it, they notice it, they know it. Now let's bring this back to you. Because this episode is not about managing others. This podcast is about you. It's about how you operate. I want you to ask yourself a question. What am I currently tolerating that I know isn't right? Think about it. Take a moment with that. What am I currently tolerating that I know isn't right? Because there's always something. It might be small. It might be something you've ignored for a while. It's probably bothering you quite a bit if that's the case, but you've just never done anything about it. Now remember, if it doesn't align with what you stand for, it matters. It matters to you. And if you don't do anything about it, it's going to continue frustrating you. It'll eat you up inside, grind your teeth. Well, you didn't do anything about it. It's the standard you accepted. That's why it's happening. Here's where it gets interesting. Most people think raising standards means big changes, big conversations, hard conversations, big actions. It doesn't need to. Raising standards can start small. It starts with consistency, doing what you said you would do, following through to completion at an acceptable standard to yourself, holding the line, even when it's inconvenient, even when it would be easier not to just let things slide. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you say to everyone around you, being on time matters, but occasionally, well, you let it slide. You turn up a few minutes late. You don't address it. You just turn up late and hope nobody notices. You move on. Now, nothing dramatic happens straight away, but over time, the standard shifts. Not because you announced that it didn't matter anymore, but because you demonstrated it. In a work situation, others will turn up late because you have. It's okay. Clearly, it's not, but hey, you did it. Now let's imagine the opposite. You consistently show up on time. Every time. You don't announce it. Hey, I'm on time as usual, everybody. You don't do that. Not in a loud way, not making a point of it, just consistently arriving on time. That becomes the standard. People notice, the environment adjusts, and this is how standards are set, not through words, but through behavior, repeated behavior. Remember, the standard you walk past is the one you accept. Let's take this one step deeper, because this also applies to you. It applies so much to you. The standards you set for yourself shape your results. Think about it. If you consistently lower the bar for yourself, you make excuses, you give yourself permission to fail all the time, if you consistently make exceptions, if you're always saying, I'll do it later, guess what? That becomes your standard. If you're consistently saying, I'll do it later, guess what happens? Not much. And your progress reflects that. But if you consistently follow through, if you do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, that becomes your standard. But remember, you're doing what you said you would do. You're completing things. Guess what? You get results. And because you've got results and you're doing more things, you can do more reflection, you can self-improve better. And over time, guess where your life direction goes? There's only one way. It just gets better. This is what the podcast is about. It's about you. It's not magic. It's just some simple guidelines to improve your outcomes. And this is why standards matter so much. Personal standards, because they shape everything. Your environment, your habits, and your future, and also the people around you. Here's something I've learned over time about standards. They don't need to be announced. Standards do need to be demonstrated. You don't need to tell people what you expect. I mean, you can, but better yet, show them through how you operate. And over time, that becomes the benchmark. Because if people respect you, and they will if they know that what you stand for is what you do, it's called having integrity, it's called having authenticity. If people know that about you and they respect you, and you show them how you operate, they'll start doing that too. It's called setting an example, a good example. And over time, that example becomes the benchmark. Here's something practical for you to do this week. Pick one area of your life, just one, and ask yourself, what am I walking past? Where am I allowing something that doesn't align with my standards? I'm walking past it. Remember, in episode 1, we talked about values. Values set standards. And if you're allowing something in your life that doesn't align with the standard you've set for yourself, whether it's a personal behavior or something else, be honest. Don't overthink it. Just find that one thing that you are walking past that doesn't align with your standards. Then make an adjustment. Not everything, just one. It might be how you respond to something. It might be something you stop allowing. It might be something you start doing consistently. It might even be rewarding yourself because you never do. If that's the case, do it. Rewarding yourself is one of the best things you can do. Otherwise, what are we here for? Start. Start there by finding that one thing, making that one adjustment. Start there, because once you raise the standard in one area, once you align, it influences others and it changes your world. Over time, it changes everything. It changes how you operate, how people perceive you, and the results you get. Here's the key takeaway from today. Standards are not what you say matters. They are what you consistently allow, what you consistently demonstrate, and what you walk past. What are you walking past? That's a great question, isn't it? Now, in the next episode, we're going to move a little bit further. We're going to talk about accountability. Related to standards, accountability. It's what happens when standards aren't met. Standards set the expectation, but accountability is what makes them real. This is the Long Way Forward podcast. Thanks for being here. I hope you subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next episode. As earlier, if you've got any questions or any comments, do comment away. I do respond. I'm really enjoying the community that's developing around this podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.